Welcome to another restoration by Ob Job Fix. I'm Zeke, your host, and today we have a mission-style lampshade. It's oak and leaded glass, and this is how it came to me. In 1,000,000 pieces. Well, maybe not 1,000,000, but there are plenty. And they are not marked as to how it went together. It's just a jigsaw puzzle as far as I can see. I'll just let the camera recording roll here a little bit so you can kind of take in what I've got to do here. Well, today I'm just as much of a loss as you are. Now this is just a quick preview of what I'm trying to do here. I counted the ends, or actually the panels, and there are 10. So if you square that, there's 100 different possibilities of how this goes together. So I've drawn a shape, not sure what you call it, a pentagon, but 10 times, 10 sides. So let me turn the camera down and I'll show you what I'm doing. Well, there it is, and I've got a band around it to hold it in place, no glue yet. So the next job is to fit these pieces that hold the top panels. And again, no one has any idea where they go, so it's trial and error. Another some 100 possibilities. So I'll work on that off camera because that's just a lot of slow work. It took a couple of 3 hours to figure out where the sides went, and I'm not sure that they're exactly where they were when it was initially made. Seems to me that the thing had been re-glued at least once, and there's a lot of spillage. Just a lot of slop. It all needs to be scraped off, sanded. Now here I'm going through the same process as I did the base ring. Again, there are 10 of these diagonal uprights that contain the triangular pieces, and they're not marked, so I'm just looking for clues as to how it went together. This is handmade, so some pieces fit better in some places than others, and it's just trial and error as I go. And then there's another set of little wedges that go on the top, and they're all different too. You'll probably notice some cheap chisels laying around, and I do keep some cheap chisels for scraping and digging out stuff. There's no reason for me to get the best stuff out because this glue is kind of hard on the edges, so just trying to remove all of this. I don't know what in the world it was. Some Gorilla Glue, maybe, some PVA. It's old, but it's not original because there was just way too much squeeze out. Again, I'm going to let the camera footage just roll along here. There's not much to say. It's just getting pieces like this. There's a little bit of a clue as to where that one goes. And I don't know if you noticed there, but there was about a 1/4 inch of glue between the joint, which was just obviously a very poor glue up, very, very bad workmanship, and it failed. So that's the biggest problem. It may have been put together by someone at some point, but it obviously didn't last, so it's going to have to be reconfigured to find the best place for each of these pieces, and if I can't find exactly where it came from, I'm going to have to make it work. Now some of these are going to fit pretty well, and I think you're going to see here in the next minute or so as I try to tap this in, that it just isn't right. Tap, tap, tap. It seats at the bottom. It's just, that's not the one that goes there. So let's try another place for that. And that's just how this goes. It's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. When you count the fact that some of the triangles, well, only a couple of them actually had glue joints that existed. Some of the squares, there were 3 or 4 of them that were complete. But when you add up some of the bottoms and the top stretchers that were loose, it's even more than 100 possibilities of both rings, the triangular ring and the base ring, to be put together. I couldn't tell you how many possibilities or how long this took. It was quite a long time. So this has been shortened up a lot. Here, let me get that piece in there, and then I'm going to show you one that's really, really a mess. If you can see that, look at all that. It's just I can't even tell you how bad that is. But it's all got to come out again. Just a cheap chisel, and fortunately, this stuff is breaking away fairly easily. I wish it was a hide glue. I could have just warmed it up with some warm water and vinegar and dissolved it all, and that would have been great. But it was something other than that. But it's brittle enough, a little gummy, but brittle enough that I can get it off using that poor chisel there. Why, I'm glad I don't have to use that thing on good wood. I'm just going to show you one more piece here, that really ugly one that I cleaned up a little bit, and I think it'll go into place. Well, as I mentioned, this is too tedious to film the assembly. So I've got it assembled. It's all dry fit, and I'm reluctant to take it apart to glue it up. So I think I'm going to drizzle glue into the joints. Let's take a look. See, I weighted it down. I wanted to see if it was pretty square to the base. That's probably about 20 pounds. And this is the top from which it hangs from the canopy, chain, whatever. So I'm going to be able to spread this out just a little bit and get some glue down to these various joints here. And then it was suggested to me by the owner of this, who happens to be a dealer, that I replace these ratchet straps with an inner tube so that I can pry these joints apart a little bit to try to get some glue inside the joint rather than just drizzling it in. However, I think the drizzle is still going to get incorporated. So that's next. Now, I found that I didn't have to put the inner tube around the base of the thing in order to spread the tops. They would open up a little bit, and enough for me to wiggle one of these things out, get some hide glue down into the, what they actually are little mortise and tenons on an angle there. So I've got a couple of sides there on the tenon, and then there's the mortise and those vertical runners. So one by one, I can just go around and do those. There's only one or two that had a glue joint that is still attached, and I could still pry it open and get some glue down in there. So that's really the best way to do that, if you can get glue down in there rather than just drizzling it in there, as I had sort of planned on doing. I may back up my glue by drizzling some CA glue in there, which will find the voids and make it even tighter. So this is one way to lift one of those things out. I've got the glue sitting on a coffee cup warmer. Keeps it about 140 degrees, which is exactly what animal glue likes to be. It can be a little cooler. It just doesn't want to be any hotter. It starts to break down the proteins, and then it's not as good. So as long as you can work with it. And the nice thing is that any squeeze out is easily wiped up while it's still wet with water, or when it's dry, you can still wipe it up with a little bit of warm water, possibly a little vinegar in it. So kind of clean as you go, and there won't be any glue marks when the stain is applied. So one by one, just going around the thing here, just kind of taking up your time. Sorry about that, but that's the nature of this beast. Let's let the camera roll for a little bit. Okay, well, enough of that. This is going to be the last shot. I'll get one more of these things out of here. I'll give you a little close-up just for entertainment purposes. And we'll just close this section out and move on to the next. All right, the top is all glued up, and I'm going to go ahead and weight it down again and leave it overnight. I'm going to put that aluminum foil there. I could use saran wrap, I could use packing tape. It doesn't make any difference. I just don't want to glue the top to the rest of the thing just yet. I'm going to go around and just kind of tap it a little bit, just settle it into place. Leave that 20-pound anvil on top of it overnight. Come back in the morning and we'll see what we got. Next up, I'm going to show you the inner tube. What I did is I took a bicycle inner tube and I opened it up so that it became sort of a flat band. And I just used typical staples to make it the right length and the right tension. So I was able to leave the red band down near the hips and keep this inner tube up near the top, so it would keep tension on the frame, and yet I can open it up a little bit at a time, as you see there, and not lose any reference. So same procedure, get as much glue down in the mortise and tenons as I can, the ones that are open, and just go around a little bit at a time, tap it back into place. I had dry fit all this, as you know, in the beginning, so hopefully I'm not going to have any surprises, although there are always surprises no matter what. Well, now and again, I'm going to find areas where there's just a little bit more glue to scrape out as I go. I didn't get everything, but this piece fits pretty well. And it's one of the pieces I was able to get completely out, so I can do both ends of it. The one next to it seems to be pretty solid, so I'm just going to leave it in place after tapping this one in. And I think we're pretty well done with that operation. You may have noticed these little brass pieces sitting off to the side. And what they are is the strength that holds the top on so that it can be hung. So again, they were all mixed up. They had to be sorted out and see where they went. And here I'm using a soldering iron to solder them back together in situ, because I want them to fit up as closely as possible to provide sort of an even pressure all the way around. I'd say this thing weighs about 10 pounds, so this is really the strength, because wood screws go down through these brass pieces, through the little wedges that you saw me gluing into place, and into the cap there. The soldering iron is heated into a furnace to about 500 degrees, and due to its mass, it'll hold its temperature for a minute or so, and then it has to go back into the furnace to be reheated. So that's that. About ready to flip it over and call this one done. So there it is, completely done. I put a little light inside just for an effect, but The dealer owner asked me not to stain it. I told him I couldn't get the glue joints all completely tight as can be, but I did the best I could. He was happy with it, so thanks for watching.